of Bhagavad Gita Simplified series. And in the previous session, we have been discussing some interesting points from the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. So we will continue and discuss some more interesting points. This is the third session on the introduction to Bhagavad Gita in the Bhagavad Gita Simplified series. In today's session, we are going to discuss the 5 key concepts of Bhagavad Gita. There are 5 principal topics which are stressed in the Bhagavad Gita. So we are going to talk about that in today's session. So let's begin the session with a few prayers. We dedicate this session to our beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. So let us begin the session with a few prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us take a quick recap of what we discussed in the previous session. We saw how Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita and Lord's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We also saw the spirit in which the Bhagavad Gita must be understood. It must be understood in a submissive spirit, in a devotional spirit. And why it is required to adopt such a spirit? It is because only with this kind of a submissive and devotional spirit, we will be actually able to understand Krishna's words, his instructions, without any concoction. We will be able to understand the real spirit of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And we also saw the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to bring us out of ignorance. And the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita acts as a wonderful torchlight for us to move forward in our life and to attain the goal of our life. So let's proceed, and we will read some interesting concepts in today's session, and we shall also discuss. Let's continue to read from the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position, as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all sufferings, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Yes. So all of us, we are going through so many difficulties. As we discussed in the previous session, our material existence currently, it is quite disturbing. That is what the Bhagavad Gita says, and that is what we can practically see in our daily life. And it is very much evident in the present pandemic situation. The Bhagavad Gita says, birth, death, old age, and disease are the 4 principal miseries of material existence. Everybody is going through these sufferings. So, old age, nobody wants to get old, but still old age comes. With old age, body becomes weak. Nobody wants to become old, but still old age is enforced upon us. And then there are diseases. These diseases also bring down our energy levels. Nobody wants to get disease, but still diseases are enforced upon us. We are seeing the current pandemic situation of COVID-19. The whole world is suffering because of this. So that is disease. And then finally, death, mrityu. Nobody wants to die. Given an option, even a person who is on the deathbed would say, I would like to extend the duration of my life for some more hours or some more days. Nobody wants to die. It's a miserable experience. And the cause of all these three is birth. The very fact that we have accepted a material body makes us gullible to these miseries in this material world. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, should we simply go through these miseries, or do we have an alternate? Now, the Bhagavad Gita uh, teaches us that we should not simply accept sufferings, but we should use these suffering conditions as an opportunity to question, to ask relevant queries. This is a very special prerogative of human beings. Only human beings can question. I don't want suffering, but why sufferings are enforced upon me? Is there a way out of suffering? This only a human being can ask. The other species of life, the animals, they can't ask such questions. They may ask questions in their own way, but their questions are limited only to four things, as we discussed previously: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But human beings can question, can ponder beyond these. So, Bhagavad Gita is encouraging the spirit of inquiry in us. It is the spirit of inquiry which makes us qualified as a human being. Let's proceed. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jignasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering, or where they came from, and where they shall go after death, are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. So humanity begins with the spirit of inquiry. If we have studied the European history, the medieval age history, we always see the Renaissance period. The spirit of inquiry led to a lot of discoveries, inventions, voyages, and the Europeans were expert in all those things. The spirit of inquiry was encouraged in them. That is why they were able to travel all over the world, find sea routes to so many countries which were only heard till then, but these people actually discovered the way to reach those places. They also discovered new countries. That means this spirit of inquiry is something which is very innate to human life. We should never lose this in our day-to-day activities to maintain our livelihood. Somehow we have forgotten the the asking relevant questions. So the Vedanta Sutras says, Athato Brahma Jignasa. Now that you have got a human form of life, now you have to inquire about the absolute truth. We have to inquire about the absolute truth. So that is a qualification for understanding Bhagavad Gita philosophy. If there is no spirit of inquiry, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita won't make any relevance to that person. So a person must be inquisitive. Who am I? Where did I come from? What will happen to me after death? I don't want sufferings, but why these sufferings are enforced upon me? Is there a way out of it? Now, these are some of the relevant inquiries which make a person a suitable candidate to understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna was such a student who had firm faith in the Lord, and he also had this inquiry spirit. Let's continue. Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all followed by the tiger of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. See, when we have the spirit of inquiry, when we have the spirit of inquiry, the eagerness to know, then the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita makes sense to us. As it is rightly said, where the student is ready, the teacher appears there. If the student is not ready, even though the teacher may have a lot of knowledge, but the student cannot make the best use of the knowledge that the teacher has. In the same way, if we do not have the spirit of inquiry, if we are not interested in knowing answers to these life's hardest questions, then this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita seems to be too, it's like an armchair philosophy, we think. But actually, this knowledge has a lot of potential to change our paradigm, to actually empower us and give us the highest perfection that a human being can attain. Now, there are millions and millions of people, billions of people on this planet. Lord Krishna says himself in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidyatati siddhaye. Out of thousands and thousands of human beings, very few people are actually interested in attaining perfection in life. So it is not so easy to even get the spirit of inquiry because we are so bogged down by the daily routine activities. We are so much busy with so many activities that we have forgotten this basic human instinct of inquiry. As a child, we all had curiosity. We all were very inquisitive. But later on, when life got the best of us, we became busy with so many activities and we stopped asking questions. So, Bhagavad Gita says that we have to start asking questions. If we want to get out of ignorance, we have to get into the mood of Arjuna. And Arjuna had this spirit of inquiry that is evident through the chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The quality of questions that Arjuna asked Lord Krishna is truly amazing, wonderful. All the questions that we need to know answers for as a human being, all these questions were asked by Arjuna, and all of them were perfectly answered by the Lord. So, the Lord is very mercifully revealing this knowledge to us in the Bhagavad Gita, and we have to make the best use of it. For that, we need to adopt the mood of Arjuna, that is the spirit of inquiry. Let's continue. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorances. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. Now, was Arjuna really an ignorant person? The answer is no. Arjuna is a friend of Krishna. Anybody who is intimately connected with Krishna, there cannot be any room for ignorance in such a person's mind or consciousness. But for time being, Arjuna was put into such a perplexity by the Lord's arrangement so that Arjuna could ask questions and the Lord could reveal this message of Bhagavad Gita. So this is a arrangement made by the Lord. Arjuna was not in ignorance, he was above all ignorance, but for time being he was put into such an ignorant position by the arrangement of the Lord so that Arjuna could be given the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and all of us can get benefited. And just by knowing this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we can easily understand the purpose and mission of human life. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of five basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, and how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. So there are five key topics, five principal subjects that are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. Number one, Ishvara. Ishvara means the supreme controller. Number two, Jiva. Jiva means the living entities, all of us. Number three, Prakriti. Prakriti means material nature, the cosmic manifestation that we see around us. Number four, Kala. Kala means the eternal time. And number five is Karma, the activities that all the living entities perform. So these are the five principal topics discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita says what is the interconnection between these five topics and how these five topics bring about the entire material sphere of activities. So first one is Ishvara, the supreme controller. Now we are also Ishvara. Ishvara means controllers. We are also controllers, but we are not supreme controllers. For example, I have got a mobile phone. I operate and control the mobile phone. Therefore, I am the Ishvara for this mobile phone. Somebody might be a faculty in a particular college or a university, and that professor might actually control students under him. So he is the Ishvara for the students under him. But then he himself is controlled by his superior. So in the material world, nobody is the supreme controller, because above everybody, above every controller, there is another controller. But the supreme controller is God, the one who is not controlled by anybody, but who is the controller of everybody. He is called Ishvara, the supreme controller. And then Jiva, all of us. And what is our position? We are all parts and parcels of that Ishvara. We are all Amsha of that Ishvara. That means we all have the same constitution as the supreme controller, but in minute quantity. That is our nature. Then the Prakriti or material nature, it is a manifestation of God's energy. So the nature that we see around us, which is producing wonderful things, it is called Prakriti, and that is ever changing, and that is a manifestation of God's energy. And then we have Kala. Kala is the eternal time factor. It is insurmountable. Nobody can cross over the Kala factor. And it is Kala or time which brings about changes, which controls the entire cosmic manifestation. And lastly, Karma, the activities that we all perform. That's called Karma. So karma is one of the major topics discussed in the Bhagavad Gita throughout the 18th chapter. So all these five topics and the interaction and interrelationship between these five topics constitutes the message of Bhagavad Gita or the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. I repeat once again, Ishvara, the supreme controller; Jiva, we the living entities; Prakriti, Prakriti means the material nature; and Kala, the eternal time; and Karma, the activities of the living entities. Now, out of these five, Ishvara is eternal, Jiva is eternal, Prakriti is eternal, and Kala is eternal. The only thing which is temporary is Karma. Karma is not eternal. It can be changed. It keeps changing. We will discuss more about it when we come to that point. Okay, next, let us continue. Yes, out of these five basic subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or Supreme Controller or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs, over material nature, etc., as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Prakriti is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind these wonderful cosmic manifestation, there is a controller. Yes, this is a very important understanding that we need to get. There is, I told about the five topics, right? So among the five entities, Ishvara is the supreme. That is Krishna. He is the supreme controller. And then there is Prakriti. Prakriti is like a machine. However complex, however sophisticated a machine might be, the machine needs someone to control it, someone to push the buttons, and that is done by Ishvara. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a driver under whose direction everything is working. So if somebody thinks that, oh, everything in this world is happening by its own, there is no controller in place, then it is a very childish argument. Because everything that we see around us, there is an intelligent brain behind it. There is a controller. Even if it is an automated electric car, there is an intelligent brain who has programmed the car to work in a certain fashion. So it is childish or rather foolish to consider that there is no controller. Everything in this world is controlled, and that is the point that the Bhagavad Gita talks about in detail. How the entire energy is controlled, all these things are discussed. When we go to the relevant chapters, we will have deeper understanding. Right now, we are just seeing the synopsis of the whole Bhagavad Gita in the form of introduction. Let's continue to read. Now the jivas, or the living entities, have been accepted by the Lord, as well as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity, because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras. We are trying to control nature
as presently we are trying to control space or planets. And this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Yes, this already I have told that all jivas, we are all, jiva means the soul, we are all the souls are part and parcel of God. That part and parcel means what? We have the same qualitative oneness with God. Qualitatively, we are the same as God or Krishna or Ishvara. The example is if you take the entire gold mine and you take a particle of gold, qualitatively, both are gold, but quantitatively, the particle of gold is very insignificant compared to the mine of gold. Similarly, if you take an ocean of water and a drop of water is also salty, the entire ocean of water is also salty. Qualitatively, both are same, but quantitatively, so the drop of water is very insignificant compared to the vast ocean. Similarly, all of us, we are all amshas of the Supreme Lord. We have the same qualities as God. One example is, as he said, God is Ishvara. Ishvara means one who controls everything. Now, we also have this tendency to control, isn't it? We want to control the very fact that we are studying about this material world, about the different phenomena that happen in this world, is to get a hold of things in the material world and to control and to get to know more about it and to control and to change things the way we want. So this is an example for the qualitative oneness between us and the Lord, isn't it? So even though we have the tendency to control, why do we have the tendency to control? Because originally it is there in God, and we are part and parcel of God. So we have the same qualities, but in minute quantities. So even though we have the tendency to control, but we should know that we are not the supreme controller. Above all controllers, there is one supreme controller, and that is very nicely established logically in the Bhagavad Gita. What is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter, 5th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Apareyam itastvanyam. This Prakriti is my lower nature. Prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. And beyond this, there is another Prakriti, jiva bhutam, the living entity. So, yes, Prakriti means nature. Like if you ask, what is the nature of this person? Generally we ask this question, right? What is the nature of this person? Nature means his characteristics. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, the word Prakriti is not only used as to refer to characteristics, it also refers to energies. Prakriti also refers to energies. It is used in that context. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Controller, has many energies, multi-energies, and those energies are classified into two types, superior and inferior. Superior means that which has consciousness, and inferior means that which does not have consciousness. In other words, matter and spirit are the two kinds of energies of the Supreme Controller. Now we, the jivas, the living entities, we are called superior prakriti because we are conscious entities. Whereas the dull elements, that we see around us, earth, water, fire, air, ether, a combination of these elements, and all that we see around us in nature, which do not possess consciousness, they are called as inferior prakriti of the Lord. Inferior. So both prakritis are controlled by the Lord. Prakriti is always controlled by Purusha. Purusha means the supreme Lord, the Lord, and Prakriti means the energies. So energies are predominated, whereas the Lord is the predominator. Now, why we are called superior Prakriti? That we already discussed, because we are conscious. Whereas the matter, material things are not conscious, therefore they are called inferior Prakriti. Now, the superior Prakriti, the Jivas, using our intelligence, we can manipulate the inferior Prakriti. We can control the inferior Prakriti to a certain extent, of course. So that tendency is there in us, isn't it? So the living entities and material nature, both are called Prakritis, energies of God. One is superior because we possess consciousness, whereas the material nature does not possess consciousness, therefore is called inferior. So all this information is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Prakriti itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time, and by a combination of these modes of nature and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I have worked very hard with intelligence and I have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then, say I have lost all my money in a business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our activities or the results. This is called karma. So, karma means what? Now, there is Prakriti, the material nature. The Prakriti acts on us in three ways, in three shades. They are called three modes of material nature, three gunas. Sattva guna, mode of goodness; Rajoguna, mode of passion; and Tamoguna, mode of ignorance. You can say that these are like three different degrees to which the three degrees in which the soul is covered by ignorance. Three different shades of ignorance. Sattva guna means least ignorance. Tamoguna means highest level of ignorance, and in between, the Rajoguna or the mode of passion is intermediate stage. Okay. Now these three gunas, by combination of these three gunas, okay, under the control of time, the jivas perform activities. You see, there's a very nice connection here. There is Prakriti. Prakriti is acting on us in three different ways, covering us, bringing about three degrees of ignorance. Okay. Least ignorant, as I said, Sattva Guna. Most ignorant is Tamoguna or mode of ignorance. Now, under the influence of these three gunas, under the uh, purview of the eternal time, we perform certain activities. These activities are called karma. Now, the very word karma means any activity that you do, you also have to reap the results of those activities. As you sow, so shall you reap. Okay. Now, as if you do good work, you enjoy. If you do bad work, you suffer. This is the law of karma. As Prabhupada gives the example here, if you do a good business, you have good profits, you enjoy the profits. If you don't do good business, you suffer the loss. So every action that you do, you are bound to suffer or enjoy the fruits of those activities. And this is called the concept of karma. Okay. Now, let us conclude today's discussion. So we saw the qualifications of a sincere student of Bhagavad Gita. Number one, he has to be curious. Remember the spirit of inquiry. We have to ask relevant questions, especially the questions pertaining to who am I, why suffering exists, how can I get out of this suffering, and all of these things. This constitutes a very important qualification of a sincere student of Bhagavad Gita. And the second one is one has to be humble and he has to have firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These two qualifications are absolutely required to understand the Bhagavad Gita knowledge. Now, then we also discuss the five basic truths which are explained in Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord; Jiva, the living entity, all of us; Prakriti, nature; Kala, the eternal time; Karma, and activity. So all of these five concepts are explained very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita, and how these concepts interact with each other, how these entities interact with each other constitutes the subject matter presented in the Bhagavad Gita. If we understand this very nicely, these five things, we will have a complete clarity about our life, and we don't get disturbed even amidst the difficult of the calamities. We can remain peaceful and calm, because this knowledge empowers us to take the right decisions in life. So there we conclude. So let us do mantra meditation. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna recommends the Japa Yajna. Japa means to chant the holy names of the Lord. And this is also called mantra meditation. And it is the most effective and the most recommended process of self-realization and God realization recommended in all the scriptures. So we are going to do mantra meditation by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for about 16 times. We shall do that now. First, we chant the invocation prayer, the Panchatattva mantra. Please repeat after me. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this was the Panchatattva mantra. We say this once, we chant this once, and then we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as many times as you want. But important point to notice, this is not a silent meditation. It is called sound meditation or mantra meditation. The mantra has to be chanted audibly so that you can hear your own voice. And each time your mind goes there and here, bring the mind back on the sound. This is a very important practice which will help us to attain concentration of mind. And we have to hear the sound very attentively. That is going to help us take our consciousness to the next level. Now let us together chant the Hare Krishna mantra for 16 times together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting fast or slow is not very important, but most important thing is to chant by pronouncing each and every word of the mantra distinctly and hearing each and every word attentively. And every time you see your mind is going there and here, bring the mind back on the sound. So by doing this, we can actually gain spiritual enlightenment and inner strength by which we will be better able to understand the spiritual science discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. I recommend all of you to please perform this mantra meditation every day for at least 8 minutes. Now we go to the next part. If you have any questions or comments based on what we discussed today, I request you to please ask them now. If anyone has a question, please unmute yourself.
Hello, sir. Can I ask a question?
Yes. May I know your name, please?
Sir, I am Sai Krishna, sir.
Yes, Sai Krishna. Please. You are a student in IASC?
Yes, sir, I am student. I am studying MTech at in DAC department.
Very nice. Good. Please
Thank you.
ask your question.
So yeah, you said like in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned we are controlled by the Supreme Lord, but in a sense we are making very small or very big decisions day and day in our life. So what does that mean? Like we have a sense of autonomy in a controlled nature, or we are not controlled?
Very nice question. Thank you. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say there is a game of cricket. In the game of cricket, there are many things which are pre-decided. Like if it's a 2020 match, the number of overs for which each team is going to play, that is already decided before in hand, 20 overs only. How many balls in each over, that is also decided. And what is the length of the pitch, that is also decided. What are the different ways in which a batsman can get out, that is also decided. So there are many things which are decided. There are certain laws or rules of the game of cricket, they're all decided. Now, there are certain things which are not decided. For example, uh, when the bowler is going to bowl the first ball, uh, with what speed he's going to bowl, whether it's going to be a what kind of bowling it will be, that is not decided. Will the batsman will he be able to hit a six in the first ball itself, or will he become duck out in the first ball itself? That is not pre-decided. So the question that Sai Krishna asked, Sai Kishore, I guess, asked his question, Sai Kishore, right?
Sai Krishna.
Sorry, Sai Krishna. Yes. So he asked is our life fully controlled, pre-decided, or is there a question? Is there a chance for us to make decisions in life? So there are some people who say everything is written here, it is all predestined, you cannot do anything. There are some people who say no, everything is in your hand, you act and you gain. But the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita says our life is a combination of both. There is destiny, there is also scope for your free will, right? You are at this particular moment, how are you going to act? That is not pre-decided. You have a free will, you have a choice to act, right? So just like I told in the game of cricket, many things are fixed, there are rules of the games are fixed, but within the rules you have free space to act and perform, right? So how to perform our actions, that the manual of life Bhagavad Gita will teach us how to perform our actions. But definitely we have a free will now, and the Lord respects our free will, and that is why the Lord is speaking the Bhagavad Gita. If Krishna wanted Arjuna, by force also he could have made him fight the battle of Kurukshetra. If it was Krishna's desire that Arjuna somehow or the other should fight the battle, it was not difficult for Krishna to use his powers and force Arjuna to fight. But he didn't do that because Krishna respects Arjuna's free will, his choice. Until Arjuna came and asked Krishna, "My dear Lord, I don't know what to do. I am fully perplexed about my duties. Please instruct me." Until then, Krishna did not instruct Arjuna. So that means Krishna respects our free will, and we definitely have a free will, and we need to discover how to utilize it. Hope that answers your question, Sai Krishna. Am I
Yes,
clear
sir.
or
Yes, sir.
yes?
Doubt is clear, sir. Thanks for the good analogy too with cricket.
Thank you. Anybody else has any other questions? I think we've already exceeded our time limit. Santosh should say about this. Should we continue, or if you have anybody has a question? Okay, if you have any other questions, if you're not able to ask at this point of time, or if you get questions in the future anytime, there is a link which is being displayed on the screen. Please feel free to upload your questions there, and we shall answer your queries. So I assume that there is nobody has any other questions at this point of time. Okay, so let us now conclude the session. I have an important announcement. As I said, mantra meditation helps us to actually uplift our consciousness to the spiritual platform where we get prepared to understand the spiritual knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So the students of Indian Institute of Science, the members of Trans Dimensions Club, are organizing every day mantra meditation morning 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. It is an online mantra meditation. You can just join in for 5 minutes or whatever time you, how many ever minutes you want, you can join and chant, do the mantra meditation along with the other members. This can actually help you to cultivate a habit of doing mantra meditation on a daily basis. You can just join in for how much ever time you want between this time 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this is the meeting link also. You can make a note of it. The short link is also there. It's going to happen on Google Meet. So you can join the mantra meditation session morning 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock anytime. And last but not the least, I'll be very happy to receive your valuable feedback. Please do let us know how you felt attending the session. And if you have any constructive feedback on improvement, how we can make the session more effective, please give your valuable suggestions. And if you also have critical feedback, please don't hesitate. Please do give your feedback, because unless you give your feedback, we won't know what you actually are looking for. So please make a note of this link, tinyurl.com/td comment, and give your valuable feedback on today's session. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you all for giving your valuable time. I have one request to all of you. Next week, please be there by 6:30 p.m. so that we can start early and end the session on time. Please take care of this, because everybody has to wait if people don't come on time. So it's my humble request to all of you. Please come on time at 6:30 p.m. for the next Saturday session. I'll be waiting for all of you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week ahead. And in the current pandemic situation where there's a lot of mental stress and anxiety people are facing all over the world, the only solace for us is this wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, which can make us strong internally, and the process of mantra meditation, which can take us to spiritual heights with which we can face any kind of difficulty uh, with a bold and with a strong mind. So I request you to please chant and also read the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir. Hare Krishna.